It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week we're reviewing Across the Spider-Verse.
Finally.
Now in theaters. Part 2 of 3. We'll talk
but
about
technically
it later.
Part 1, if you remember when the original title was released.
Yeah.
A little confusing.
Yeah. We went weeks of theorizing what these titles would be, and we eventually got there. And Mike's favorite news, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles drop a mutant-filled trailer just in time to be in front of the Spider-Verse, too. I was like, your timing is very on point. Drama de-escalates as Dwayne Johnson returns to the Fast franchise.
Chris,
And
you should have said decelerates.
Oh,
that would have been perfect.
Sorry, we just came off one episode. I didn't have the steam in me, so I'm sorry.
Yes, we just talked about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on our weekly review episode. I guess not weekly. That doesn't make any sense.
I hope not.
It's going to be almost weekly here in June. There's
Yeah.
things coming out every single week, it feels like.
Yeah.
But as you can tell, if you just listen to that, I'm still waking up. I literally rolled off of my pillow and onto the microphone to talk about Spider-Man. So if you hear maybe like a sultry, raspy voice out of me, maybe you like it. Maybe you like the way I sound like this. Maybe I should always record when I wake up.
I like the afternoon Mike. He sounds a little heavier. He sounds a little perkier. He's ready to go. But
I'm just mellow, man.
That's right. But we got when a movie comes out, it's great. We're blessed with less news than normal, if you will. So it gives us some time to really talk and have conversations during the week.
I like how now you're pitching our weekly news episodes as like burdens. Like this is our like Sisyphus rolling the stone up the hill. Like we are cursed to talk about the news every week in full.
We're no. It all depends. Normally it's like an hour and 15, right? During a review week, we got like 2 hours of show. So I'm like, I'll take a lighter news episode when we got to edit these. But that's just me. It's nice and sunny here, Mike. I'm having a good summer, but you're putting letters in here. I don't even know if some of our listeners will understand. So
oh my gosh, yes, I didn't even think how much I need to describe what I did this weekend.
Because I will tell you, correct me if I'm wrong. This is Studio Ghibli film.
Mm-hmm.
Before Across the Spider-Verse, there was a trailer for Kiki's delivery service if you want to watch them in theaters this summer. Like they have special presentations of them. So that's exactly the opposite about what you're about to talk about. So break it on down for us here.
Yeah, we have a buddy in town from Seattle this weekend, so we popped around LA into some thrift stores. And I came across a VHS copy, which if you don't remember what that is, it stands for Video Home System, which I have to admit I just Googled. I never knew what VHS actually stood for. But it's the black plastic rectangle that used to house movies. And it is a 4-year consideration one. Yes, and it's a 4-year consideration one too. So it's not like a normal Spirited Away, which is funny too because like I don't get it. So if you live out here in Los Angeles, you often come across at thrift stores for your consideration versions of movies, right? So when the award seasons are coming around, the studios just churn out copies of movies and just send them to anybody who could theoretically be voting in any of the award shows throughout the year, right? So, I mean, and once you get these copies, they're essentially worthless to you, right? Because not long after that, like an actual version of it will come out, a DVD could come out with special features or it's streaming. You just don't need the physical asset anymore. So it always ends up in thrift stores. So I found a 4-year consideration version of Spirited Away on VHS, which is extra weird because I'm pretty sure this movie came out during DVDs. Like I didn't even know this movie existed on VHS. So we decided to have the full nostalgic experience of like, we're going to get this, we're going to get a VHS player, and we're going to watch this the way the good Lord intended on a very, very flat big screen TV through a VHS player. I had to order a converter on Amazon, but luckily it showed up next day, so I could plug the component cables into HDMI because the newer flat screens don't have component cables anymore. But luckily the adapter was pretty cheap. It came quickly. I had to borrow the VHS player from a friend because VHS players are starting to reach that inflection point where they're no longer just cheap, useless garbage that ends up in dumps.
They're chic.
Now they're starting to become scarce and expensive. Like, I just went on like OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, just trying to see if I could pick one up real quick, and they were like over $100. Like, no way, hell no. So luckily I was able to borrow one from a friend, so I'll have to give that back. Yeah. But it was a fun, nostalgic experience watching something on VHS again. Like, obviously, once you get into watching something, even if the quality is technically low, if you've never watched a VHS before, right, I would equate it to like maybe a 480p YouTube video scaled full screen, right, on your TV. But you do get these unique bits that you don't get at just a low resolution video file, right? You get like some color bleeding, right, at the top of the tape if it's old enough. You get like these scratch and scrigglies like down in the corner of it. So it's just like it's more of a tactile experience. But surprisingly, I was shocked the audio was almost perfect. The audio to me was indistinguishable from just when I'm streaming stuff on like Netflix. So I was surprised how much the audio information still holds up on that like magnetic strip that holds all of the information of the film. But the one thing that can't be denied of watching a VHS is just physically putting it into the player. Mm-hmm. It's such an experience where all the mechanics inside just like hug the tape and pull it in, and then it goes into the machine, and then you hear the whirl and spinning. It's comforting to hear a machine working. I feel like to play my movie, like, whereas now everything's just on SSDs, nothing spins anymore. It was a nice nostalgic experience. I think if I do organically come across a VHS player at a thrift store for just like, I don't know, like $10 or $20, I'm probably gonna buy it and like put it into my entertainment console.
You are probably in the wrong region for that. You might want to have your mom and dad look at the yard sales. I'm serious. I'm straight serious, because you know that nostalgia, like records are coming back in fashion, right? Records are out selling CDs again, like, you know, finding vintage record players and stuff like that. People are just buying them up and refurbishing them and reselling them, you know, as cheap. But like here, like this yard sale season in the Midwest, and I'm pretty sure you can just find a couple on tables if you drive down the right street here. So
yeah,
but I will.
We own.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is pretty exciting, so maybe we can talk about it next week if I get around to it. I do have a VHS that's just been in my possession for over a decade now that I've never been able to watch, and it's called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Oh my And it's like an officially like branded Marvel VHS. I have no idea what's on it. I think Stan Lee might be on it. I'm not 100% sure.
Which is funny because he didn't draw any comics. he wrote them, but yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think his face is on the back of the VHS, so we'll figure out. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But yeah, some gems in the VHS market.
So couple things, real fast. Spirited Away was released in April of 2003, Mike. So it is literally 20 years old VHS in your hands today.
Oh yeah.
And it was released by Walt Disney. Disney actually was the distributor of it in America.
Distributor here in America. And I do have to say I'm a dub over sub type of guy in anime. Come at me, hate me. I don't care. Don't at me, bro, if that's even still a thing that people say, and I know it's not. But we're talking about VHSs. This whole conversation is vintage, Chris. But the American voice cast for Spirited Away is amazing. It's they shelled out for sure, and I think the consideration campaign worked. I think it maybe won.
You were actually holding a consideration movie that is an Oscar winner. So
nice.
So that is what I was going to tell you. I'm like, I pulled it up and looked at it because I was like, you know what? You're right. This is like a early 2000s movie. Why would they do VHS version of this? But yeah, absolutely. It also probably harder to digitize and pirate movies back then, right? When they were on tape. So.
No, it was easier, but the thing is, since it was a mechanical, physical process, the quality degraded whenever you copied from the original source. So yeah, you could do it. All you had to do is have like 2 VHSs because this is fun because if you're young and you've never done this before, right?
Okay.
This feels like hacking the Matrix. You plug a VHS player into your TV, and then you plug another VHS player into your VHS player, and you record off of that. It's insane. It's so cool. You think it wouldn't work, but it works.
No. Yes, I agree. But like, it's harder to digitize. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yes.
In the 2000s, right. People weren't taking tapes and digitizing them in mass, and then like, go download this off LimeWire kind of thing, right? So like, tapes. I get tape to tape. Totally get that. But like, tape to digital back then was just a thing. So that's probably why they don't. We
used to make our own custom cuts of Simpsons episodes, where this was another trick where if you were recording what was off of your TV with a VHS, whenever you felt the commercial was about to come on, you just hit pause on your VHS, and then you hit play when the commercial was done, and you were live editing your recording, and we would just watch those back, just no commercials.
Most shout out to my grandma who used to do that for us, record TV shows when we weren't there, or like movies, and be like, oh, we got the commercialless version this week. But you'd have like 2 or 3 frames of the commercial, and then there'd always just be a little bit there. But the other thing is, I also own a Japanese VHS as well for Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, the movie that came out
perfect
back
Great.
Then. So it's just something about VHS, man. Just holds up.
It's that nostalgia. If you've never experienced a VHS before, it's fine. You're gonna have your own nostalgia in the future for like DVDs or something like that, or a CD. I know that there are people having nostalgia over old point and shoot cameras right now, where they want that kind of old digital sensor quality on their photos. So nostalgia escapes nobody. Age and painful joints come for us all.
It's got sound. it's got sounds, tactile. Like you feel it and you hear it. Right. That's core memories right there. So absolutely.
Yeah.
But
speaking
nostalgia,
of feeling and hearing things,
well, I just say nostalgia. In the mid '90s, a game Diablo came out from Blizzard, and this weekend, over 20 years later, we have Diablo 4. And the last time Diablo came out was Diablo 3 was 2012, I believe, so 11 years, and Diablo 4 came out this weekend, and I'm just having a blast playing it. You choose, your one of your 5 main character classes. I'm a necromancer, Mike, so I raise skeletons and send them out to do my bidding, and then I keep a big scythe, 2-handed scythe, but I am working through the campaign before I finish it, and this I'm in the final act, I'm pretty sure, but like, this game is huge. Like they've gotten rid of, like, hey, you had different sections, like Act 1 is grass, Act 2 is sand, Act 3 is a swamp, right? Like, they've gotten rid of that thing and give you one big continent with all of these like biomes on it at once, so you can get on your horse, your mount, once you unlock it, and just ride around this entire continent doing side missions or fighting creatures and leveling up and all sorts of fun stuff. So absolutely a blast. If anyone's into action RPGs, it's top down. You can play for a little bit. You're never sucked into anything more than, like, if you want to do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you can. If you want to go longer, you can do that. But like, it's just a really fun game, and it's got at least 4-player co-op. It might have more. I've played with up to 4 people this weekend, going around, and like, everyone's doing their attacks on screen. But it is the advent of the looting model, right? You upgrade every time you get a better piece of gear, you upgrade it. And this game is like throwing gear at you left and right. So for those who haven't played Diablo, watch some trailers, learn about it. But I love this game. Is awesome. It's nostalgic for me. Diablo 2 was the first game I ever had, quote unquote, cracked or pirated given to me on a burnt disc. So to me, I'm just like living my dream from the early 2000s, if you will. Replaying some Diablo on Xbox. It's also crossplay. That's a big thing these days, right? Mike, if you got it on your PlayStation, I had it on Xbox, someone else had it on PC, we can all play together, and I think that's a fantastic addition here as they go through releasing games. So good times. It came out the same weekend Street Fighter 6 did, and I think Street Fighter 6 got tanked by this. So we'll see if that holds up later. 2 things I watched this week, both from, I believe, the year 2018, Mike. First up was Bumblebee, the movie, the Transformers prequel, getting ready for my Rise of the Beast next week when I get to watch it. So I dove into Bumblebee, starring Haley Steinfeld, who is the voice of Gwen of the Spider-Verse movies, in case you didn't know that. So it was fun to see her in live action. Bumblebee, this single-handedly has one of the best opening scenes of any Transformers movie ever, or like anything to do with this stuff, because it starts on Cybertron with the original animated versions of the cars and robots fighting each other, like from the things. Like, it's not their new Michael Bay versions. They have like little fast cars, and like they have like their real humany looking faces, right? In effect, they're shooting each other, blowing each other up. Lots of great action, really fun. I want more of that rather than the Michael Bay versions of stuff. But then Bumblebee lands on Earth and just rips apart another Transformer really quickly. So I thought that was really fun. So it's a good movie. It's not perfect, but it's one of I guess John Cena's first action movies, right? For him, he played like the commander in the army chasing the Transformers around. But I'm watching this the whole time. I'm thinking, like, when are they going to do a fast crossover with Transformers, Mike? I see how crazy those movies are getting and what they're doing in these. Like,
I think it honestly, since it's all I thought it's all Universal, right? Both of those properties, so they could. I guess it depends on if how much money they make on the next Minions movie, right? Can we take the financial risk of merging these two things together, or maybe they need to take the financial risk?
Yeah, I was gonna say they can sell Transformers toys. They're not selling a lot of Fast and Furious toys. But did Bumblebee make you excited? Because I know you're going to go see Rise of the Beast here shortly. Did it make you excited to go see it? Because I feel like the trailer for Rise of the Beast is not feng shuang with the Bumblebee movie. Yeah, it's complete opposites. Bumblebee is great because it's about one character, right? And very minimal actual Transformers. They have the triple changers, two of the triple changers, Bumblebee, and then another one. But like that was it. Like, really very simple, right? Very, very, very easy. And my concern with Rise of the Beast is there's a lot of Transformers in that trailer. However, I've seen some people who've seen it, like, yeah, actually, not a bad movie. Not the best movie in the world, but like not like it's like the best Michael Bay Transformers movie, and he's not even involved in it. So that gives me a little bit of hope that they don't know how to cut the trailers over there, and they're just throwing in the busy stuff because that's what they think people want to see. So overall, still mildly, cautiously optimistic about the new one. But Bumblebee, I watched it just so I had it fresh in my mind, coming up on that. And lastly, I watched Into the Spider-Verse because I'm interested, Mike, in before we walked into Across the Spider-Verse. It's been 4 years or 5 years, right, since they made it, 4.5. Has, like, as beautiful as Into the Spider-Verse is, do they enhance that animation any further with all the technological advances we made kind of going forward? So I did watch it. It still holds up. A very awesome movie, right? We mentioned, Miles Universe, the halftones, the color dots, you mentioned chromatic aberrations kind of going on, the shifting, still there. But, really I wouldn't say the downfall, just one of the cool parts about watching Into the Spider-Verse, Across Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse, we only literally see one universe the whole time, right? Like, very rarely. We just see the other characters come into this universe. We don't see the other ones. So it was very cool to see how can they make every other Spider-Verse look different going forward. And, we talk about that in our review, and we're going to get right into a spoiler-free version of it here in a second. But I think it's still a great story, a great starting point for that. And I forgot literally how comically big the Kingpin is in that movie. Like I always forget, like, he's just a little head on like a big, massive black stature of a body, and that was fun. So yeah, absolutely had a good time revisiting that. But let's go ahead and jump into our news because everyone's here. They want to know what we thought of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse now in theaters, Mike. So you wanna take lead again, second lead, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll just jump right on in.
Because you hated it, right? Yeah, you hated it.
Unsurprisingly, this movie is great. It's amazing. We go in depth in our spoiler review, so I would say go check this movie out. There are definitely spoilers that you do have to avoid, and luckily it seemed people seem to be holding up pretty well. There was a cameo that I didn't know about that luckily I didn't start to see people talk about on the internet until like last night or or even this morning on Sunday. So luckily people are holding back a little bit, but those walls aren't gonna hold up for long. So I'd go check this one out. It's great, super fun time, exciting, exhilarating. They push the art style even more, which is something I didn't even know was possible, considering how beautiful the first film was, like Chris was saying, and you even see in the trailers, spoiler free of course, but we do just get to see more of everything, more spider people, more universes. It's just a time, man. We had a great time. We were applauding, we were cheering in my audience. We had so much fun. We do go into a few like nitpicks and possible critiques in the review, but overall just solid.
Yeah, no movie's perfect, so we're always going to have that, but it's not enough to detract from the enjoying movies, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. And the most obvious flaw, if you could consider that, is just by the nature of how all of this is being structured right now. This is very much a part one, and you're going to get most of your satisfying conclusions in March next year when the second part of this comes out. But we do still get full arcs from some characters in this film, so you do get satisfaction at the end of the movie of a character accomplishing something for sure. So yeah, it's just great. Of course, everyone knew we were going to like this, right? Almost all of the DNA from the first film carries over into this film. I think some of the directors are slightly different on this film, but when you're making a film of this magnitude, I feel like the goals and the responsibilities of the creators are so much different, right? Lord Miller wrote this and produced this, whereas like there's like 3 directors on these movies because so much is happening. You probably got a director that's looking after art, you got a director that's probably looking after just technology, a director looking after like the pipeline, and they're all coming together having meetings, I'm sure, and then Lord Miller just trying to shepherd this all around, which I would say is more traditionally the role of a director, right? So there's just so many people on a project like this, so I would show your respect, stay for the credits, even though as Chris has said before, you don't have to stay because there are no post-credit scenes in this film, but like the credits are beautifully designed, just like most tentpole movies are now. So I would stick around. And watch.
There's the mid-credits, and they're very visually appealing and unique, right? Just like this movie is. So absolutely stay for those, and it'll tell you a reminder, hey, there is another movie. Like in typical, they even use the Marvel words, right? Spider-Man will return and Beyond the Spider-Verse. So I think that was fun. Little was it synergy? Yeah, synergy is the word I'm looking for there. Yeah.
Exactly. But Chris, how did you feel about Spider-Man?
I just oof. How can I find so many good words to describe this movie, Mike? That's what I'm looking for here. No, I'm not gonna fake you out. Literally, it's an absolute blast, an emotional journey. But I think, again, if you've not seen the first movie, and hopefully you have going to this, you need to see the first movie. I think the stakes, it even references the first movie quite a bit early on, right? To get the story up and going. So absolutely watch the first movie, jump into Across the Spider-Verse. You will not be disappointed with this. It's the Spider-Man you know and love. We've got, I think, it's not a spoiler to say there's an enhanced area for Gwen to be at the forefront of this story, not just a side character. We get Miles. He has his own story going through this. There's obviously, we've talked about to death the Spider-Man chase through the spider lobby, right, with all the different cameos you can think of, even from the trailers. There's more, and there's even more showing up throughout, and it's fun. And a lot of I would say celebrity voice cast for a lot of these characters as well. Everyone wants to get their voice in the Spider-Verse, if you will. And it's just it's a great journey. I don't want to say just fun, because fun's kind of it is fun, but that's like a generic description. Like, it's a fun movie. It is a fantastic trip through, again, the idea of like each spider person, what it means to be a Spider-Man, and what that responsibility means for each one of them, and what is required really to be a spider person in your universe. And it really touches on those journeys, those arcs, and gets to that really well. I would say, while this is in fact part one, I would say my other nitpick is like, villain's great, but maybe not as fleshed out as we need him to be. or them to be. But really knowing like this is part one, it's 2 hours and like 15 minutes long or something like that, maybe 2:20. You get a lot of movie. You are getting your money's worth watching this movie in the theater, and it is a good time the whole way through. To Mike's excitement, that I'm gonna just go ahead and say this, Mike. This might be a spoiler, but they only do the pointing meme once. They only do it once in the movie, so he's not gonna have to boycott them. Maybe they'll do it again in the next movie. You think they'll do it once per movie?
I have to say, we do get to see the pointing meme in the trailer, so it is not a spoiler. But they set it up really, really well. So it was earned for sure. But I think it's time to retire the pointing meme.
Yeah, they might do. I'll give them a reprise in the next movie, if you will, and that's it. I absolutely can't recommend this enough. Again, my caveat, my asterisk to this would be, this is not, I would say, kids movie. It's animated, yes, but kids movie, maybe not. Right, like very heavy themes, adult themes in here that are, I would say, more maybe aimed at teenagers. Right, like the characters are teenagers really at the end of the day. So I feel they fit in the story, the I guess how they set up works with them better than small children. But there are some bright colors and some fun characters in here if your kids like watching those on the screen at the movie theater. So yeah. Also, last bit, not related to the movie, Mike, lame popcorn bucket choices this year for this movie. We talked about bringing in, we'll do the reviews, but I'm going to just go ahead. If you're looking to collect your popcorn buckets, it's just his head and Spider-Gwen's head. It's not that fun. So, oh well. Anything else you want to add? You want to move on to this next bit of news, which is tied directly to this movie.
Just go see the movie.
That's right.
Take your friends, take your family.
Oh, also, by the way, I'm going to scroll down. $120.5 million opening weekend domestically, 3 times bigger than the original, and the 3rd highest Spider-Man movie ever. So if you're not watching this movie, you're like in the minority at this point. So
yes,
probably go check it out along the way. Into the Spider-Verse, is that streaming somewhere, Mike? I was going to ask you.
Well, it's Sony, so it could be anywhere because they don't have a streaming service. I would guess
Fubo.
Netflix.
Nope.
What? Fubo?
Fubo TV. It's you can stream it on Fubo, and that is, I believe, free. Or you can rent it on Apple TV. Stream, yeah. That's the only place I see it right now. So nope, they took it off everything, Mike. You have to pay to watch it
because they knew
it's in the
people were going to
contracts.
be hunting it down.
They call those blackout dates, don't they, or something like that? But anyway, shifting gears here, not too far, but still in the Spider-Man universe. They Amy Pascal is out doing interviews. They're promoting the movie. They have confirmed that they are doing a live-action version of Miles Morales over at Sony, and this is what I was worried they would take this the wrong direction, right? Like, hey, this movie's doing good, that means we should live action him immediately. Should you though? Does he need to be? I think it's great. Maybe he's in the MCU as a side character, but like I don't see the need to rush him, but
like I don't want to see Miles wasted on the Morbius, Venom, Kraven universe. I just want that to be its own unique, isolated dumpster fire that just gets to implode on its own. If they're going to introduce Miles, do it the right way and do it within Tom Holland's movies. That's what you got to do. Treat the character with the respect that it deserves. And like you could actually do something really, really intense and meaningful here, right? The origin of Miles from the comic books is Peter Parker dying. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not necessarily saying that they take that route, but it could be an interesting story arc for just Peter Parker, Tom Holland in those movies of like he's been the for the entirety of his existence, he's been the Padawan, if you will, right? Either under Tony Stark or somebody else, he's been taking orders. But like now he's out on his own, maybe he gets 1 or 2 more movies, right? And then all of a sudden he has to start teaching somebody.
Well, I think he'd even start in the second one because I'm going to lean into Insomniac's Spider-Man, as we discussed off air, what we would call it. He doesn't die in that one, right? In the video game world, Miles gets the powers, similar powers, but he is under the tutelage of Peter Parker at that point. So I would like to see them maybe take that approach a little bit, right? As the teamwork and Captain America had the Falcon and Black Widow and Winter Soldier, right? One of the peak MCU movies. So like, wouldn't that be cool to have 2 Spider-Man with different power abilities working together in a movie?
But honestly, I'm just curious how you do it better than the first Spider-Verse movie. What a great origin for the character. It's already connected to a current Peter Parker, right? You get to see the whole origin unfold. Like if they do it in the MCU, you're going to have to kind of like almost like reboot the circumstances to get another Spider-Bite happening, right? So maybe we get Oscorp back up and running again.
I disagree because we never had Oscorp up and running to begin with. So technically, maybe they're trying to replicate his powers, and maybe that's what is the inciting incident.
Yeah, that could be it. But we'll need to get that going. They'll also need to probably get the Osborns into the universe up and running. I'm not saying that's like a bad way into it, but like these are things that will have to be considered because we had the advantage of Tom Holland's Spider-Man of just being Spider-Man when we met him. We didn't have any of that kind of like origin baggage, but they'll have to do that for Miles.
Yeah. Well, I think the other benefit the MCU currently has is Spider-Man was dealing with Iron Man villains for his first two movies, right? Like, literally, even though it was Mysterio, in the second one, he was still an Iron Man, I guess, victim. And in the first one, No Way Home, Vulture is, again, an Iron Man victim, if you will. So, I think they have the opportunities to maybe lean into the all of Spider-Man's people who are geneticists and other things along the way. So... but with no one knowing who Peter Parker is or Spider-Man, really that's going to be very interesting in the MCU going forward. And I would like to hope it comes out before the Kang Dynasty / Secret Wars. But we'll talk more about maybe that might be delayed a little bit. But yeah, I would like to see Miles be handed to Marvel and produced in Sony like Peter is. But I agree with you. I don't want them to do it themselves because woof.
So. I mean, we were just talking about this not too long ago. Interesting trade. Like maybe Sony gives up their Spider-Man IP control contract to Disney, right? Oof, that's a big trade, right? What do they get in return? The ability to make any Marvel character animated as a movie, right? So like Sony Animation takes over like the animation point of view, but also at the same time like Disney, historically an animation studio in origin, ceding control over something animation probably doesn't look good well on paper either. So that's probably not going to happen now that I think about it.
Well, I think, and this is going to shift right into our next topic here. Sony will never give up Spider-Man because Avi Arad is such an ignorant asshole. Like he thinks he is the god of Spider-Man because he helped create the first Sam Raimi trilogy, right? Like he thinks Spider-Man owes him instead of like vice versa, and he just won't let it go. And now he says a solo Spider-Woman movie is coming sooner than we think. And this is not making me feel any better about this because we already have the Silk show on Amazon. We have Madam Web in production that we know little to nothing about. Craven has opportunity. I'm gonna leave it benefit of the doubt because it is rated R. That's something they haven't done over there before. Venom, historically, looking to land mediocre, right? Well, if you take 1, 2, 3, probably going to be middle of the road. There's nothing over that makes me feel confident in a Spider-Woman live-action movie, right, along the way. No matter which Spider-Woman they choose, whether it's Jessica Drew, which I have heard is in Madam Web, or if they want to do a Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman, because that's what, she can go by that name in several ones. So with Avi Arad over there thinking he is the god of Spider-Man, I don't think Sony will ever give it up, right, at the end of the day. Like he is so far gone that he just won't let it go. And he feels slighted because they kicked him out of in the MCU. I don't know if you remember that. He was part of the Iron Man launch. And then when Marvel Studios stood up proper, they got him out of there. So I think he's still holding a grudge after all these years.
Yeah, possibly. That could be what it is. I mean, Spider-Woman, I think it would make the most sense for her origin to come out of S.H.I.E.L.D. in some way, which is not happening over at Sony, so they would have to come up with a new origin, and I just don't really...
The Ultimate Universe version of Spider-Woman is?
I know she... I know she like helps out Miles get his suit at the origin, but I don't remember, is she part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No,
or not in the Ultimate Universe?
There's no S.H.I.E.L.D. If there is S.H.I.E.L.D., it's more... Yeah, I guess there is S.H.I.E.L.D. There's Skelly and the Avengers. But no, she's actually a clone of the Ultimate Peter Parker. She's essentially what the Scarlet Spider would have been if she'd been a girl instead. So Spider-Woman in the Ultimate Universe is a female clone of Peter Parker.
I mean, if somebody held a gun to my head and said, "Hey, pitch us a story, right, to get the Sony Spider-Man universe chugging again. We don't care if it's good or organized. We just want to make money." Once the multiversal thing is figured out, I guess lean into clones. Yeah, was probably like the next thing Spider-Man is known for.
I would say probably even bigger, right? Remember the 90s when they had the clone conspiracy? But like, I guess that would be one way. Like, what if it was a fake out? You're like, oh my gosh, it's a multiversal story. Then you come to find they're just clones. There was no multiverse the whole time. So, it could be done well, but I'm not excited about until they pitch me what the Spider-Woman movie is. Like you said, I'm not excited to just hear they're making it, right? Like, you need a story for it.
And it's purely down the trust issues, not the subject matter. Exactly. We just don't trust them.
Nope, not at all. Absolutely not at all. We saw Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, or Amazing Spider-Man 2 mostly. That was him as well. But on the other side, Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland, apparently Amy Pascal and Tom Holland include that talks and negotiations have been in place, right? They've been doing this to make this happen. But due to the WGA strike, in solidarity with them, they have paused all pre-production, even on this movie, until that's worked out. So Spider-Man 4 will be essentially delayed until that's worked out. So I feel like that's good on them to not do that.
I briefly brought it up last week that the Directors Guild and the Actors Guild are also possibly gearing up for a strike. There was some news this weekend that there might be a tentative deal with the directors, but nothing set in stone. So this is just another PSA out there for just take a step back, maybe learn a new hobby that gets you outdoors, because there might be a little bit of a break in some of your favorite TV and movies while people are out there fighting for fair pay. And I saw like a graphic of the executive pay at all of these studios, and it's absolutely insane to imagine one person getting paid that much. Like, they just get like direct deposit into their bank account every week of that much money. It feels like I'm not a religious man, but it feels like a sin. Yeah. So hopefully they can seize some of that money and give it to the people that actually earn it. So chill out.
It's just good to see that other company productions are in solidarity, right? Like, some jobs need to happen. Keep going. Like, other production places need to go to work and get paid. They're not against the writers. They just have a different piece in the process, right? Keep productions going, keep them, everything going. But at the same time, it's good to see higher ups, especially presidents of companies, respect the guild at the same time. So that's awesome to hear that. So sucks is delayed, but what can happen? Last time we had a writer's strike, we got Transformers Dark of the Moon and Revenge of the Fallen, one of the really horrible ones, and Hero Season 2, Mike. So hopefully they come to an agreement quickly and we don't have that again. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Mutant Mayhem got a new trailer this week, Mike, and this is the trailer that tells us more about the story, right? This is the one that gives us a little bit more other than the introduction. And boy, do they go all out on the mutants in this trailer. Like, I have a hard time keeping up with this trailer because there are so many TMNT characters that you don't normally see, because they're non-humanoids, if you will.
No. Oh man, it's great. And I finally have my opportunity where I was able to put Mutant Mayhem on our featured image for the podcast this week, because the last time the trailer came out, there was other bigger news that overshadowed the teaser trailer. So yeah, this full trailer is great. The art style is just so grungy. I just feel like I'm living in the sewers with the turtles in the best way. We get to see more of just kind of like their teenage antics in general. And yeah, as you were saying, the story, right? This is not an original story when it comes to the turtles, but it's something that haven't seen too often, of where the turtles want to be accepted by society. So what they're going to do is they're going to save the city and people are going to love them. So I think that's a great driving force for them.
And they are going up not against the faceless, Foot Clan. They're going up literally against individual mutants with their own names, right? Like, Ray Fillet, Mondo Gecko, Genghis Frog, all those other ones.
Yeah, which is fun too, because you can tell there's already going to be a scene where the turtles are going to maybe want to join them because they've never met any other mutants before, and maybe they're going to go try to boost a truck full of DVD players like Dominic Dominic Toretto did back in the day.
Oh my god,
and
the
then
Fast and Furious TMNT crossover.
Have a change of
John
heart.
Cena's in this movie too, man. You're all halfway there.
Yeah. So this could possibly, Chris, you were mentioning when we were talking about Spider-Verse earlier in the day that you've heard complaints from real-life humans out in the world that the first Spider-Verse movie was almost too intense for their eyeballs, right? It was too much for them to handle.
They got visually nauseous watching the I guess it would be like the parallax effect with some of the
maybe
stuff going on.
I don't know if this movie's going to help at all.
This one actually, I'm not sold on the visuals yet. After watching the second trailer,
I love it,
especially when the truck, like the van jumps, like it looks like it's ramping through the air. I'm like, there's something moving that doesn't need to be moving here. It just, I can't wait to watch it in full effect. Trailers again, you can't base the entire film on the trailer, but something about it just didn't seem like completely 100%. I'm like 90% there, but the last 10% I'm not ready for. But I want to see the whole thing, right? It's better when you're watching the whole movie that way rather than just clips.
Yeah, you could be right. You know, we're putting like possibly 90 minutes of that into your face straight. You know, we'll see how intense it is. But as far as I'm considered, I already have the art book pre-ordered. I know the value of the art book is going to be great, even if theoretically I hate the movie. I'll love flipping through the book. So yeah, super stoked for this. And then the soundtrack seems like it's going to be pretty rad too.
This is where I was sold, right? My one of my favorite bands is 9 Inch Nails, and by default that makes anything Trent Reznor does just gold to me. So Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who are known for doing movies such as Soul for Disney, Gone Girl, Girl with the was it Gone Girl? I think Girl with the Dragon Tattoo as well. You know, some dark moody stuff. Soul, which is a jazzy soundtrack. They did
the Social Network too, right?
Social Network, yep. They've done a lot of stuff. They also produced Halsey's last musical album as well, which won a lot of awards. They are going to score the soundtrack for this movie, so I'm like even more interested now, knowing what they're going to be doing with this movie. Mm-hmm. So very excited for that. Overall, like I said, the trailer was great. I loved it. Superfly, being voiced by Ice Cube, he reminds me literally of when it's one of the Aqua Teen episodes. They turn what's his name? MC Chris. It's like his one of his versions is a fly, like MCP Pants. Like he turns into a fly for one of them. So very very excited to see it. But yeah, this is going to be another fun movie to watch this summer, right when it comes out the end of the summer. So check back for
they
more.
They did a good job separating it far enough from Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I think it's August is when it comes out.
Yeah. It's like into the summer, right when school starts. Mm-hmm. Vision Quest. We're gonna shift gears here into Marvel. You remember Vision Quest when we talked about this? So this is the upcoming Disney Plus series with the Vision. But is rumored to bring Viv and Vin Vision to screen, and you might be like, who the hell are these people? Well, in Tom King's Vision comic book, it's like 6 issues, he created a robotic family for himself, including like wife, kids, dogs. They all look like him, like they were all green with like the pink highlights in that comic book, but he was like, hey, the Brady Bunch, like your everyman kind of thing. So if they are going down this Vision Quest thing, he might create his own children rather than lean into the mystical kids that Wanda had in her show. So I think this would be interesting to have robot kids. And then Viv Vision went on to become a young Avenger, if you will. So
yeah, that's the whole thing, right? We're all on like kid watch.
Yeah.
In the Marvel MCU, like who's going to be in this roster? They got to do Young Avengers at some point in time. They're just kind of like leaving it out there, ripe for the picking.
Yeah, they're not rushing it, and that makes me feel pretty good that we don't know this coming. But yeah, so that is our Marvel news for this week. We'll shift into one bit of Star Wars news. Skeleton Crew, Mike, the show coming out this fall with Jude Law, has 6 episodes confirmed and consists of only 3 writers. Each writer wrote 2 episodes each. So John Watts, Christopher Ford, and I don't know how to say her name. It's Joe Wesner is what I'm going to call her. They all have writing credits, stuff I'd never heard of, but they each of them did episode. John Watts did 1 and 2, Chris Ford did 2 and 3, and Joe Wesner did 4, 5 and 6. So thought that was interesting. A reduced number of writers per I guess maybe per arc. if you will.
Yeah, I mean, 6 episodes I like. This sounds like it's going to be just a tight story where, I mean, you got to remember, too, out there, that Skeleton Crew was originally pitched by John Watts to Jon Favreau when they were working on Spider-Man. Just like, hey, what if we followed like a bunch of kids around the galaxy? Like, I like that. Go ahead and make it. So John Watts is... the world is his oyster now, right? After making all of those super successful Spider-Man movies, right? So I don't think he's going to dig his feet in and just be in Star Wars Disney Plus land for, for the next 5 or 6 years. I think this is probably his story. He's going to lay it out there and probably move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I know we saw leaked footage from Celebration, right? That I shared with you. They have the that pirate from Mandalorian, the one who not the green pirate, but his like lackey who was on thing. He was in there, so I wonder how much crossover or implications this will have for Filoni's movie down the road, right? Because it's set in that same time frame. So very interested to see what this does and how this turns out. But it seems very focused, right? That's what I was trying to get at. So good for them. In unsurprising news this week, Mike, the least surprising news this week, but the funniest to me, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock himself, has confirmed his return to the Fast and Furious franchise by announcing that he gets a solo Hobbs movie. Mike, he has squashed his beef with Vin Diesel. They've all put it in the past, and they're putting the fans and the audience in the box office first. And he put a video, I think, on his Instagram announcing this. But this will come out before Fast and Furious 10 Part 2. So sounds like this is going to be our next movie in this franchise.
It feels like this is the only way The Rock's ego could possibly do the mental gymnastics in his head to get him to agree to this, of like, I will come back under the stipulation that I get my own movie and my own movie first. Like, his movie is like basically setting up the finale of the Fast franchise. So he has like that kind of story and narrative to tell of like, this finale couldn't even have happened without my character who is so important that gets his own movie. Even technically Dom Toretto doesn't get his own movie, even though every movie is kind of his movie, right? It is funny seeing the discourse online of just like, would this ever have happened if Black Adam, was successful? And it probably wouldn't have, because he would have been busy making the next one.
I think he gambled big and lost on the Black Adam and his attempted coup at the Warner Brothers DC stuff. And what do you do whenever you're that big of a star? He's lined up for the Moana live action movie, and that's about it. So
it is interesting now that I think about it. And we were talking about the strikes in Hollywood a little bit earlier. I would assume Fast and Furious X Part 2 is at least definitely written. I'm sure it was written in conjunction with the first one.
10 ends on a cliffhanger. I'll tell you that now. So they had to have. Hopefully.
Yeah, and part 2, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not being filmed already. Maybe parts of it were filmed during production of part 1 as well. So, but now we have this Hobbs movie out of nowhere that has to get written. It has to go through pre-production, directed, edited. All of this has to be done before part 2, and it was just announced. So maybe, The Rock did say in his tweet announcement that they quote unquote squashed their beef last summer. So maybe there was enough time. I'm not saying you need to move heaven and earth to write a Fast and the Furious movie, right? So maybe they could crank it out pretty quickly, but yeah, they're gonna have to move pretty fast on this.
I think this has possibly been in the fire for a bit. And I only say this is spoilers for Fast 10. We've talked about it before on the show, so if you don't want to hear Fast 10, skip ahead. But the post-credit scene, one of them, is literally The Rock showing up, right, as his character Hobbs, because in the 5th movie, Fast 5. Have you watched Fast 5 yet, Mike? Recently?
I'm in the middle of watching it. I'm watching it in fits and starts.
But he shows up in them. That's his first appearance.
Yes.
Fast 10 is the result of Fast 5. So I'm like, it makes sense to have the Rock character be in on this, because he's part of that movie as a whole, right? He's an integral part of that, so it makes sense. And they even put him back in, because in the Hobbs and Shaw movie he didn't have his little goatee that he has in Fast 5, but at the end of Fast 5 he has the goatee, Mike. He has his goatee back. So I was like, they've probably planned this for a little bit longer than we anticipated, but most of these movies, they probably write them on the day of, or write them in post, right? Hey, we're going to film you driving in a car for a little bit. Let's edit it later. But I don't know. I think they might get production going. I don't think Fast 10 Part 2 has been filmed yet. So I think there's still some time to do that. And then maybe, the end credit scene of Hobbs ties into Part 2, and that's all you need to know at the end of the day. I don't know. Yeah. So this is crazy. I didn't think he'd come back. I never thought he'd come back. And it's funny that they've now, again, smooth everything over these big Hollywood tough guys, right? The two, they argue about who's bigger in real life, pretty much, and they're putting them back in there. So I'm interested to see how this turns out. Not because I have any investment in it, because it's just so funny how stupid it is at the end of the day. So excited to kick back and laugh at their stupidity. Let's talk about The Flash a little bit. Next week. No, 2 weeks is The Flash, right? 2 weeks. There are some early screenings actually going on this week by invite only. I got an email to C1. Hey, do you want to see this early? Literally within 10 minutes had clicked accepted, and I was already on the wait list, is how fast this went. So
nice.
They're either going to let me in on the 7th, which is Wednesday, to watch this, or I'm going to have to wait till the 15th. Either one's fine with me. I don't care. But again, there are still spoilers out there in there. In the 8th, because they showed us at CinemaCon. Now, I did see a bit of news this week. This movie would not have been made if Michael Keaton did not return as Batman.
Oh, interesting. That means he's got to be getting a pretty big payday for this one.
This is essentially, this isn't a Flash movie, Mike. This is Batman the movie, is what I'm saying. With the Flash as a sidekick character. Like, how much Michael Keaton, all the toys are even Michael Keaton, right? Like the Hot Toys and the Sideshow collectibles are all Michael Keaton. There are more Batman, you sell more of his ships or his bat wings and cars, and the Flash doesn't have anything like that. He has a ring that his suit comes out of. So like, this is essentially a Batman movie, right? Like, and the Flash is just there on the side.
Yeah, it is interesting because the news came out this week that Ezra Miller is going to be doing very, very, very light press for this movie, in a sense of, I believe they are just going to be on a red carpet briefly, and that's it. They're not going to do any of those junket type of situations. So maybe since they knew their main star wasn't going to be out there pumping up the movie, maybe this is kind of like the whole secret strategy of getting all of these early screenings out there. Like, who needs a press tour when you got people like, Tom Cruise and Zack Snyder out there posting that the movie's great. So props to the public relations and marketing department for this film of like working around this weird scenario.
They've called in every favor they had under the sun to get that done. Like, I guarantee it. So I'm excited to watch it, just to see what happened and put it behind us. But on the flip side of this, this movie is probably similar to the Aquaman, which they're not. But Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, James Wan has confirmed he has made changes to his movies throughout the production process to fit it into James Gunn's DCU. So my guess, there are going to be some changes along the way, because his movie has always been kind of out there on its own, right? If you watch Aquaman versus what Zack Snyder did, like Zack Snyder, they had to put an air bubble in the ocean to talk. And James Wan's like, no, they're sea people. They can just talk underwater. Like, we don't have to do this. Even in what Zack Snyder's Justice League, they gave Mara a British accent at the end of it. Remember that? And she doesn't have that at all. So Mara might not even be in this movie based on the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp stuff. But like, I'm not surprised that James Wan's like, yeah, we'll change whatever. I don't care. Like, I never really followed Zack Snyder's stuff anyway, so if we want to use it, let's keep doing it.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, right? How now the Aquaman has taken over the mantle of what is going to happen to these DC movies. Like, we were so curious about the Flash because we're like, well, you can't edit around Ezra Miller. They are the star of the film. So now with Aquaman, it's just like, oh boy, what's happening here? It's had its own unique set of drama. We don't know where this is going to go, how it's going to fit in. I mean, as we know, the easiest thing for James Gunn to do would have just been to blow everything up, right? We just get rid of all of it. Let's start from fresh. But, he doesn't live in that world. He's going to have to hold on to something that makes money.
Well, he'd have to blow up his stuff, too. I think that would be the only reason he didn't blow it up, because, he'd have to blow up the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, because both of those reference everything else beforehand. But The Flash and Aquaman are the only 2 people who made cameos in the show. And those are the only 2 remaining after all this is done, remember?
Yeah, that is true.
So,
it's just wild.
It is
crazy.
But, and then, what was a couple months ago, Jason Momoa did that video where he just left James Gunn and Peter Safran.
Oh, yeah.
He's all
like
excited.
walking on the Warner Brothers lot, like, yeah, man, I'm pumped.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, he's going to be Lobo. Well, they not said anything yet, but, yeah, this is fine. I think The Flash had some changes probably at the end. Aquaman and Lost Kingdom probably has some minor changes. Probably not a lot, really, if I'm going to guess at the end of the day. But, you know, these are the 2 remaining DC 3. We have Blue Beetle. God, I keep forgetting that. 3 DC properties left this year, Mike, which is more than Marvel has. Marvel only has 1 left, The Marvels, in November. So, yeah, excited to see how that plays out. All right, well, it's a short little episode for this week, but we also did a review episode. If you've seen in Across the Spider-Verse, you can listen to that. Or if you haven't, the first half is spoiler-free, and we talk a little bit more about stuff than we did here, so you can check that out. Look at the show notes for our time codes. But if people don't know what you're up to, Mike, what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Oh, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can read my webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN, or the gaming systems of the same name. That's where I'm playing Diablo right now. But if people want to listen to our shows, listen to our reviews, we got a lot of movies we're going to be watching this summer, whether we review them here or standalone remains to be seen for some of these. Where can they get ready to listen to all those at?
Oh, head on over to superheroslate.com. That is the multiversal pocket dimension where you can find everything that you need to know about Superhero Slate. We got our awesome upcoming release calendar. Yeah, we got our show notes over there too. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to podcasts. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out, let us know, what did you think of Across the Spider-Verse. I keep getting confused. Like, it's Into, Across, and then Beyond. But I thought for at one point in time it was supposed to be Through.
Yeah.
So it's confusing. We need to go back to the days of 1, 2, and 3. Make it easier for me.
Oh, yeah.
But we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of the show, it's so easy. All you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.